Alright, my name's Rob Ryder, speaking from Cornwall, United Kingdom. One or two of you may know of me who've been on here before. James asks me now and again to do a little update of what I think's going on. I'd like to go back onto James's channel, February the 6th, 2020. And the second part of an interview, or not an interview, a chat me and him were having on his couch. And we brought up Wuhan and mentioned that it was an experiment and that through fear people will be encouraged to build their own police state. And now we're a year down the line now, and what has happened? Fear has produced, we've actually built and aided in the building of our own police state. We also mentioned on that little chat how old people would be culled. We talk about the Liverpool Care Path, Animal Farm, when the old horse was taken to the knacker's yard. And if we look again what's happened in the last 12 months, the mass deaths, not just in this country but in other countries, in care homes. Elderly, weak people are just, in my opinion, being culled. They were died, they were killed by policies, deliberate policies put in to exterminate that class of people because they were no longer viable as human beings. That's my personal opinion. So where do I get that opinion from? So again, I've been saying for 10 years there's no such things as pathogenic viruses or even bacteria, because you have to understand there's a bigger relationship between bacteria and our body. It's a relationship. And as for viruses, the only thing we actually know about these viral particles or little blobs they see is they're just our own cellular debris. And I've gone through that before, so I'm not going to go through that again, but at the moment people can look into the work of Dr. Andrew Kaufman, Dr. Tom Cowan, but especially Dr. Stefan Lanka, who is a virologist in Germany, and through Project Emmanuel he's going to show the world how they construct a virus. Because what it's clear now, which we've been saying for many years, my friend, when I did an interview with him, Dr. Patrick Quanton, in 2014, basically said, if I remember in their interview, the story of viruses is basically a computer generated story. They have these still images, no live pictures, still images, and they create a picture around this and then sell a story. None of it's scientific. Dr. Stefan Lanka now has published a paper and he's going to show the world in a very simplified way. I'm going to quickly explain how they're creating this viral story. So basically they see a little bit of cellular debris, they don't purify it, they take a little bit of genetic information, a sequence from the sample, they go into a genome base and they build a whole sequence from this, and they create a structure from the mind, and then it's all made real by computer generation. So there is no SARS-CoV-2 genome, therefore any test for SARS-CoV-2 is invalid, which I've been saying from the beginning. The PCR test is 100% false positives, 100% false negatives, because it's a meaningless test. They're testing for about 1% of an alleged genome of this alleged virus, and even if they could purify it, identify the structure, they've still got to show that it's got anything to do with the disease. It's, I've said from the beginning, one huge psychological operation. So the question is then, is there anything to back that up? Well, I've just published a book called Medical Fascism. We can put a link below, and I've updated it because I published it a while back, and it's available through a Dr. Patrick Quanton's website. He's endorsed it, and it's a cheap little PDF for £3. I haven't gone through a publisher now, and it will be up professionally published on Kindle and Amazon hopefully in the next 6 weeks. but at the moment I think the information is important. We've managed to get it out as a download for £3. I'm just going to run you through a little bit of that information. So first, the NHS every winter always under pressure. You have the winter. Winter people get ill, yeah, with the flu. We call it the flu, but it's just the stresses of life and extra stresses in winter because of the climate. People aren't getting out as much, it's cold, etc. So why, if every single year the NHS is under pressure in winter, which is well published in the mainstream, have they reduced their bed capacity in the last 20 years by 77,000, which is about 30%. So that is a deliberate policy. You know, efficiency, you might want to cut 1 or 2 beds, but you know, 77,000, approximately 30% in 20 years, that's not efficiency. That's a deliberate policy to put stress on the NHS. There's no other way you can look at that. That's been deliberate with a growing population. So you have winter, every single winter the doctors are under stress in the hospitals because they're almost full to capacity, because you have winter, growing population, and the beds are being reduced. You then click and say there's a huge pandemic. Nothing actually has to change for them doctors to believe they're in the middle of a pandemic. You only convince them, you create a belief, that changes their perception and therefore their behaviour. So this front line of the doctors and nurses, actually, nothing has to change for them to believe there's a front line. Nothing at all, because they're always under pressure in the winter. Especially more so when you're cutting the beds more and more and the population's growing. You convince them there's this attack, they will perceive everything like that. Especially when everyone's forced to wear these masks, suits, whatever, all this PPE, whatever. You're creating a reality within them that doesn't really exist in the real world. It's just busy as normal, but you created a perception. That's why a lot of the book I've wrote is about perception. I don't know if anyone's old enough to remember the great pandemic of 1976. So what I remember of 1976 is hot weather, a big tanker coming round to mine and James's estate in Wythenshawe in Manchester with water, because there was water shortages. I remember lots of ice lollies, and I remember the greatest FA Cup final ever with Sammy McIlroy scoring the winner right in the last minute. I don't remember mass deaths, and yet in England and Wales in 1976 599,000 people died. Now that's only approximately 10,000 less than England and Wales last year. Now if you take off a conservative estimate of 30,000 lockdown deaths last year, and I'm saying a conservative estimate because I believe it's a lot more, but if you take off 30,000 lockdown deaths last year, mainly in the care homes, then nothing's happened, because they're pushing out this figure of just over 600,000 in England and Wales as the biggest deaths for a century, but the population rises. Yeah, and you have to also consider what the age of the people who are dying. So the best thing you need to look at is the death rate. And in the book I've got one section where I go through the last 31 years. I don't think it even death rate gets in the top 10, I think it was 14th. And then I've gone back to the last 60 years. I don't think it got in the top 20 of death rate. The death rate, deaths per 100,000 or deaths per 10,000, however you want to form it. That's what's important, not the number. The deaths rate. So our perception of what happens, what is happening and what is actually happening is completely different. So the book is mainly about perception. So any investigation into this has to go down to the fundamental basics. Has there been a purified viral particle isolated, its genome taken, its structure taken, etc., and it's passed through Cox postulates to see if it could cause illness? None of that's been done. And Dr. Stefan Lanka is going to show the world that through Project Emmanuel. So I'd like to move on from there a little bit. So what's happening now, I think over the new year I had a few revelations. So when the lockdown came last year, I just went home and had a cup of tea and knew this had been coming for over a decade, so it was here. People panicked, I just went and had a cup of tea, and I was quite chilled out last year, but I was doing quite a little bit of activism. And then the new year I had a few days off, had a couple of days in bed just to chill out, did a fast for a day and a half, and I realised that the activism days are pretty much over now. If you go back to Noah warning people about the coming catastrophe, the flood, but when it hit, you pull the drawbridge up and that's it, he was gone. And I think for me personally that time is pretty much here, where I've been over a decade warning about this. It's here now. The people who want to listen have listened. There's nothing you can do to the people who don't want to listen. If people want to come on aboard our ship, that's fine, but I'm not going fishing for people anymore. That, you know, the information's there, their choices are their own choices. It's not for me now. I'm just so chilled out. It's not for me to go around. So I've done the book, and that's going to hopefully be published, and then that's it. I will speak to people who want to listen and want to debate. I'm not saying I've got the truth, but I think I've got information that is important. It's not for us to say those who don't want to listen. It's up to us now. When I say us, those who have our own opinions on life and who want our own freedom to pursue our own path. And I've had some revelations in that when the fascism is so extreme as it is now, you get to a point where you have no power, which James talks a lot about, the way they've took away all a man's power to protect himself and his family. It's gone. We have no power now. They can just do anything. But it's quite humbling in that was a bit of a relief for me, because now what have you got left? Well, actually you're humbled and almost forced to seek some kind of higher guidance, whether you want to call it God, the universe, the creator, the force, whatever. It doesn't matter. That's the only option we've got left. Yeah, there is no other option now. So one, it's humbling. Two, it's a bit of a relief, and we have to look for guidance. Now I was having this inner revelation when James started changing his YouTube channels kind of text, and he was talking about now it's time to look after yourself, and it is time to look after yourself. We need to not judge other people as well. They have to go down their path. The people who hold on to the system will suffer, there's no doubt about that. The system is telling us what's coming. For those who hold on to it, that's what will happen. My opinion is, I suggest that we don't hold on physically and spiritually to the system, because it's evil. And another thing that James has repeated, and the reason I go into the book a little bit about belief systems perception, is despite the evil on show now, and that has been on show for a long time, people they can't really get their heads round the evil that they're seeing. Maybe because most people are genuinely nice people, and that's kind of the downfall. The evil that is on show now is what will show the system for what it is, but people still can't see it, and that's something that's holding them back. And they're the people that will hold on to the system, and you have this cognitive dissonance where they know people within the system rape children, cover up the raping of children, they blow babies up in wars, they'll bail out banks and let the people rot. They're selling us out now, they can see all that, but they believe everything they see on the BBC and Boris Johnson and these experts. You know, it's extreme cognitive dissonance, and you cannot dent the mentality of people like that. You have to leave them, let them go. Don't argue them, don't debate them, let them go. And James mentioned a while back about how we have to look after our own health now, physical and mental and spiritual. And these things that you can do. One is not to hold on to the system. It's not there for your benefit. Focus your energies on positive, what you want to create, rather than what you want to fight. Turn off the BBC. Don't go into their fear game, because if the nature of reality is how we think, then they're just trying to get into our brains, so we create this fear-based reality, and it will manifest the prison that they want to build. So we have to not really go into these traps. Focus on what we want. Physically try to look after yourself. Get fresh air. All the things that they're taking away from us are the things that you need naturally to stay healthy, which is sunshine, fresh air, social interaction, some kind of purpose and future and hope and dreams. They're all the things that they've taken away from us. It's not a coincidence that that's what they've taken away from us, because that is what will kill people. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. There's no doubt about that. But you can absorb that into your system and just live a fear-based life, or you can just breathe it out and say, no, I don't want any part of that. And try your best to go on as old normal as you want. Play by your own rules. I don't know what the future holds. Humanity, I guess, will decide on itself. It could, like James says a while back, the video, when the monkey says fuck you, that time could come, which could be a good thing, but you don't know what comes out of that, because they want violence on the streets as well. So there's a lot of things could happen. None of us really know. So that means when it's like that, the only thing you can do is focus on yourself, on your own little bubble. And again, James is right. You are the centre of your own universe. We're all the centre of the whole universe revolves around me, just like it does you. And that's where your focus has to be. And some people might call that selfish, but that's our natural state, to look after ourselves. Self-responsibility. And we're being played with by saying we have a responsibility to others. You know, we're doing this to be selfless. You vaccinate because you want to protect others. You wear a mask because you want to protect others. You social distance because you want to protect others. It's all a mind game. Divide and conquer. Control. It's just mass social engineering. That's the whole thing. And like I said, there's not one single scientific paper that shows a viral pathogen. It doesn't exist. So we can have all these debates about it, but yeah, these pointless debates until you show the scientific proof of viral pathogens. They don't exist, and I hope I've shown that in the book. I think that's about it, because there's a lot of stuff going on, and troubled times ahead. Economic crash has to come. They'll probably bail us out with the Great Reset, but stay focused on what you want to do, because it's so out of control now, unbelievably out of control. If you think you can control your life now, then you're better than me. I'm not a religious person, but I've turned to some kind of what I understand as guidance now, because maybe this really is to humble us and to show us that we've disconnected from that guidance a long time ago, and that's our natural state. So maybe this is kind of just the consequences of that disconnection, and that's all I've got to say for now. Thank you.